Good afternoon and welcome to today's USD virtual program, Reimagining Your Purpose. Today's session is hosted by the University of San Diego Alumni Association and the Center for Career Development. My name is Cara Marsh-Profit, and I am the Director of Alumni Operations and Engagement for USD's Office of Alumni Relations. A big shout out and welcome to my fellow alumni, and another welcome to the current USD students who have joined us today. The mission of the USD Alumni Association is to engage and enrich the Torero community for life. Today's connection is rooted in the desire to offer meaningful ways for our community to stay in touch. We know how strong our USD network is, and hope these types of virtual opportunities will continue to strengthen the connection until we can be back together in person. Without further ado, I would like to introduce today's facilitator and my wonderful colleague, Dee Kalar. Dee, I'd like to invite you to turn on your camera as I share a little bit about you. There you are. Perfect. Dee is an ICF certified career coach and works within the Career Development Center, where she offers coaching to USD alumni job seekers in career planning and management and helps them navigate their career challenges. She also oversees USD's campus-wide networking and mentorship platform TEAM, which stands for Torero Employer and Alumni Mentors. And she curates a webcast series known as Alumni Zoom Trips. Dee is a future USD alumna currently pursuing her doctorate studies in souls. We're so fortunate to have her as part of our USD family. Dee will be introducing today's featured speakers and facilitating the interview before launching into Q&A and breakout rooms. Dee, take it away.
Thanks so much, Cara. Hi, this is Dee. Great to see everyone. And I'm joined today by my wonderful colleague and co-moderator for this event, Diana Grant-Davey. And we're absolutely thrilled to have you join us today. So as an ICF coach and a Future Souls alumna myself, it's my absolute pleasure to get to introduce our speakers today, two of whom are Souls alumni. Amber Setter, I'll let Amber turn on her video, is a professional certified coach who has completed an International Coaching Federation accredited training program. She loves to coach leaders through transitions, including promotions to higher levels of leadership. She holds a master's in leadership studies from Souls. Amber calls herself an actualization coach. Her website chronicles her inspirational life journey, and this one line in particular stood out for me, where she says, "I spent many years addicted to being busy, in which I undervalued just being and allowing." She now shares the value of stillness, inquiry, and inner listening with her clients. Then we have Professor Cara Miller. I'll let her turn on her video. An author, developmental coach, a spiritual guide, and a consultant. A graduate of Souls and PhD in Leadership Studies program, Cara has an in-depth knowledge of the way we as adults learn and change. She was a teaching fellow at Harvard's Extension School and an instructor in Harvard's professional education program. As a spiritual director, she's also an expert in ancient wisdom traditions like the Enneagram, which is my favorite. And she doesn't know it, but she's also my personal idol, someone whose career trajectory truly inspires me. And here's one of my favorite of Cara's client testimonials. "My work with Cara has shown me that I don't have to choose between being a leader and being myself." And last but not least, our third speaker is Brooke Errol. Brooke, I'll let you turn on your camera. There she is. And though not a USD alum herself, she's no stranger to our amazing alumni community, having recently teamed up with USD alum, CEO of WD-40 company Gary Ridge, on the popular Human First event. Brooke has funded two local San Diego businesses, Your Best Life and Purposeful Business. A former IBM executive, she not only helps individuals find their purpose, but coaches organizational leaders on how to create environments where their employees can thrive and find out their why as well. She's the co-author of the #1 international bestseller, From Hierarchy to High Performance, and her latest book, Create a Life You Love, documents her own personal journey of transformation. Now, Diana and I have put together an exciting list of both counseling and recruitment focused questions for our speakers. And I'll go ahead and start us off. What challenges do you find get in the way of people discovering their why? And Cara, I'll let you go ahead and take that one on.
Right on. Thank you for having us, and thank you for setting this frame. Amber is one of my favorite people in the world to work with and play with and be with, and I really respect Brooke's experience, and I love USD. So with that said, I think one of the things that really gets in the way of our why is how daunting the how is, and the who. So with my clients and in my own practice, I'm constantly asking, who do I need to be in order to fulfill that why? And how do I need to go about my life? What are the practices I need? What are the commitments that I need? What are the agreements I need in order to fulfill on that why? So that why feels like it's a little bit of a too late question. I like to get to the, who is it that I'm being called to be? Who is it that I need to be for this system or this team or this partnership or this client? And then I can get to how the why informs that. So it's the how gets in the way and the who I am gets in the way. And that's a being question. And before you get to the doing. So I find that's an obstacle for me and my colleagues and my clients.
And just to follow up on that, it is a very ontological question. What are some tips, right, to help people sort of, to really overcome that fear and overcome that fear of figuring out how they need to go about finding that purpose?
So one of my favorite words sounds fancy, but it's really not. It's discernment. And you may have heard that in different traditions, but it really means, where do I sit with who I need to be and what I want to do as in my gut, kind of in my physical being, and in my heart, like my emotions. When do my emotions kind of surge up in me? And when do I hear like my heart pounding? And when do I feel warm? And when do people notice that I'm animated using my hands, right? Like I'm all in my why right now because and you can tell. And then, so if it's in my sort of my gut and my heart, and then my head intellectually, am I prepared? Am I equipped? Do I have the disciplines and the practices and the learning that I need in order to serve on, in this why? So my tip would be to try to practice good discernment and whatever that means to you. So how do you interpret the ways that you want to develop your why or serve in your why? How do you decide what to do or who you need to be? Well, get those things, wake up those things, get aware of those things, and you'll go much more easily.
Mm-hmm. And Brooke and Amber, anything that you would like to add to that?
I think one of the, when you say what gets in the way, one of the other things is that we're not brought up to think about our why. So I think that's one of the big things, because we never take the time to sit down and think about what Cara was just sharing with us. We don't sit and pay attention to when we're in the flow, when we have this extra energy that we can tap into. So it's the system that we're born into. Unless we are born to a very conscious family, we don't take the time to sit down and think. That's even on its own, unfortunately, something that stops us. And also wanting to get the approval from others. Like we want to make sure that everybody else approves what we're born to do, and it doesn't need to be the case. So those are two things I want to add to what Cara was saying, which is the how is so true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really appreciate that, because it's not, because Cara alluded to sort of these within factors, these internal factors that get in the way. And you're really talking about more of the systemic things, right? Challenges of us needing that external validation or not being born into that conscious reality that actually encourages us to weigh in on those questions. And Amber?
Yeah, it's delightful to be here with everyone. I was noticing in my body, like hearing the introduction and being able to give back to the alumni, just chills, it really feels divine to be here. where this conversation is actually taking me back to is my own journey and understanding who I am and how I can serve. And so my first iteration of my purpose was to be a tax accountant. Like, I dreamed this whole thing up. I was going to get promoted to partner. I was going to do that whole thing. And then I went through the first couple busy seasons and felt just depleted by it. And I knew that that wasn't for me, but I didn't know what was next. And so when I think about what gets in the way of the why, it's absolutely paying attention to external noise. And so practically what I did is that's when I started doing hot yoga. I mean, it was 90 minutes. It got me out of my everyday. It got me out of social media. I wasn't talking to anybody about who I should be or what would be a great career path. It was looking within myself. And that looking within myself got me to go to USD in the Souls program, which was more looking into myself, distinguishing, understanding who I am, and moving forward from there. I think the other piece where people get tripped up in this practically is that it's like this old idea that we find our purpose and that's who we are for 30 years. Like, I work at GE for 30 years and then I retire. And those days are long gone. Practically, we know that people change positions. We can see that on LinkedIn, but we still in our mind hold this paradigm of like, oh, I should be this person forever. And when I'm working with leaders, I'm encouraging them to think about their contribution as a book, that there's going to be many different chapters that build and build and build, and just trust that there's a way that they're going to interweave, or maybe they're not maybe as linear, but they all serve a purpose when you're living life on purpose.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And it's, I hear so many things, but I loved how you said, to think of how we can serve. I just love that. And also, coming at this from the perspective of what is it that depletes our energy, and what is it that gives us energy, and finding those things. And also, the career path is not linear, right? And you three ladies are perfect examples of that. I'm looking at Cara, and she's a consultant, a teacher, a coach, whatnot. And I'm looking at Brooke, who's a former IBM executive, having now been working as executive coach, and you too, Amber. And I hope that you'll get to share your personal journey, because I was totally wowed when I read your life story, Amber. So I'll just let Diana move on with our next question.
Thanks, Dee. So thrilled to be here as well. And I'm as Dee mentioned, the Assistant Director of Employee Relations in our Career Development Center. So some of my questions come more from the perspective of recruitment and career exploration. So I love what you mentioned, Amber, about living your life on purpose. So starting off with my first question of, what do each of the three of you wish that you had known when you were either a college student or a recent graduate? We'll start off with you, Cara.
I'm the leadoff hitter on these. Right? Gosh, I two things I really wish I would have known actually as a graduate student, because I don't think I would have been actually able to like live into it if I'd known it as an undergraduate student. But as a graduate student, or sort of like early career professional, I think thinking about who the adults are in your life who feel really sturdy to you, that they don't, when you talk with them, when you see them in action, they might not necessarily be in your industry, or they might not be a step on what you imagine your career path would be, but they seem like really sturdy, interesting people who are living a really full, like rich life. They lead teams, and the teams seem to want to work with them. People like that, I think, are totally underestimated. So they're people just ahead of you in their career, and they're really responsible, but they also just feel really like healthy people. And I think if I had known to go after building relationships with those kinds of people, that would have benefited me like in leaps and bounds, more than chasing people who looked like they were a step ahead of me in the career that I was wanting to be in, or maybe they were a total giant in the field that I wanted to go into. So it's sort of like the dream CEO person is like so out of reach and like doesn't have anything really to offer you. Finding somebody who's really like realistically leading people, building other people around them, also paying attention to leading themselves and building and developing themselves. That's something that's so priceless and precious. And at this point in my career, I mean, I'm 41, so I'm still middle of the game here, but that's who I actually want to be. I want to be someone who is sought sort of for that reason. That will be really like legacy satisfaction for me to have people want to talk about those things. How do you lead yourself and lead others in a way that's really healthy and really sturdy? There's not a lot of, polish. There's not a lot of managed thing. It's not about being like famous or something. Like it's how do I lead myself and lead others in a way that feels really grounded and sturdy? Those people will give you so much. First of all, they'll give you their time because they're like good, healthy people. And secondly, modeling your behaviors and your sort of sense of being around those types of people will serve you even better than like the rock stars of your industry or something like that. But that's something I had out of a different ratio, right out of college and studying and becoming a early career professional.
Cara, that is great advice. You always hear the going for the people who are most successful or impressive, but hearing you say healthy multiple times really strikes a chord.
Those people aren't necessarily the people that actually want to give back. Mm-hmm. The people who are living some sort of real existence that's really thoughtful and considered, they're actually the people that are enough to want to give. So that's more realistic.
Mm-hmm. Good advice. And Brooke, what would be your advice for what you wish you would have known when you were either a college student or an early professional?
I think I would, if I were to go back to myself and talk to myself, I would say, listen to your gut more and trust your gut more instead of paying attention to all the external noise. So that would be my first thing. And related to what Cara was sharing, like to have a good mentor helps tremendously. So if I were to have a better mentor at the time, maybe somebody that I admire in my own view, not maybe somebody who had the conventional way of being successful, but in my eyes, somebody that I admire would be somebody who's living their life like fully, using all their gifts, their potential. If I had a mentor like that, I would be much more, I think, ahead of my game. And also asking, like when everything changed when I started asking the big questions to myself. What's my purpose of working at IBM, for example? So if I were to even get to those questions earlier in life, the better and the faster that you get to where you want to be. And that's why I started my first business, because I had this amazing coach who asked me the deep-ended questions, which I didn't grow up with. So the earlier you ask that to yourself, the better it is for you and anyone. So I think those would be the three things that I would do if I knew what I knew today.
Thank you, Brooke. And I'm sure everyone on this call appreciates hearing that advice from you so that they can start thinking through some of those big questions in regards to their own life. So I appreciate that. And then finally, Amber, what advice would you give your younger self as a college student and then as an early career professional?
Yeah, kind of to underscore what Cara and Brooke were sharing, for me right now, where I'm at and the work I'm doing with others is I tell people I want to be like a mango, right? I want to have this really strong core, but I don't want to be so strong that, I'm not approachable. And so it's like a mango is a nice fruit. It's pretty. It's you want to have a bite of it. It's just sweet, but it's also super strong. And that's really the work of working with coaches. I have my own coach. I coach others, is looking within to really understand who I am and to be steady in that. And so that goes to the advice that I would give myself. So when I did the master's in leadership at Souls, it was amazing. It was transformational. I graduated and I thought I was done. I was like, check, transformation, I'm done. And then it didn't really work on myself much. And a few years later, I woke up and I'm like, I'm miserable, I'm upset, like life's not going how I wanted. And I hadn't been doing reflection and I hadn't really been nurturing my inner self. So I would go back to myself coming out of the program and say, transformation, it's like, it's a lifestyle, it's a commitment. Like I am committed to growth and I'm going to always have that in my life. It's something that I highly value. And as I go through that journey, you know, having more like-minded, growth-oriented people is really an important piece because growth isn't easy, right? Getting out of our comfort zones is not easy. And to have people that can help you hold steady in that transformation is also important.
Thank you, Amber. Such great advice and definitely memorable, the metaphor of being a mango. Oh, definitely.
I love that. Yeah. And I was taking notes, be a mango and then find a mango, follow your gut, trust your gut. And as Glennon Doyle too says, we can all do hard things, right? But I love that. Yes, the mango metaphor definitely strike a chord with me as well. And so we'd be remiss, right, to not talk about COVID-19 and these really, really challenging times. So my next question asks, should people be considering a career pivot and a career transition during the pandemic? And what would your advice be for making a career transition? And Amber, I'll go ahead and start with you, just to change things up a little bit.
Cara, you get a break.
Yeah.
I mean, so the answer's so personalized. I mean, what my sense is now of being a coach where people come to me seeking a shift or an organization comes to me to support a leader is the metaphor I've had is like, I feel like prior to COVID, many people were just on this hamster wheel, going. And then COVID like thrust people off the hamster wheel and they were dazed and confused for a while, like, whoa, what happened? And now it's, do I want to get back on that wheel? And the answer is so different for everyone. And then we have other forces at play, like for parents who, you know, children maybe are at home and what's the impact of that? And do I need to change my role because we have 2 working parents and it doesn't work to have trying to do the homeschooling or whatever the conditions might be. So there very well might be a need to make a pivot, right? Whether you don't have capacity to do the job, you've lost a loving feeling, you don't have capacity of hours in the day because you have new demands going on. I really think it's a nice time to just stop and say, hey, is a life I've been living, do I feel like I'm on purpose? Does it feel good or not? Do I want to get back on that hamster wheel or not? I'm thinking of more advice I would give myself is the idea that the greater the breakdown, the greater the breakthrough available. So, you know, when you've really felt like you're totally thrust off the hamster wheel and you're super, maybe you skinned your knee or something and really hurting from that, there's such an awakening and such a breakthrough to be had on the other side. But again, it's just stopping, looking within and saying, hey, is being really honest, is life working for me or not? And if it's not, be courageous enough to make the shift.
Thank you so much for that. And Brooke, anything else that you'd like to add?
I am so with Amber. Of course, the hamster wheel was so true. And I think I almost believe like Mother Earth said, okay, stop, guys, like the human beings, what are you doing? This is not the life that I envisioned for you. It almost feels that way. So that's really true. But just like Amber was saying, it's so personal to everyone. If you have lost a job during COVID and you can't put food on the table, of course, you're gonna maybe not go with the best job that you dreamed of for years to come. But it is important to stop and think about those big, deep-ended questions as we talked before. But the reality of everyone is so different. So I would definitely not be able to give the same suggestion to everyone in the same place because we are not in the same place. But I would also recommend that we never ever give up on the purpose that we have if we have clarity around it, because some people will give up so fast that the opportunities are not there anymore and they will give up and do anything. But those who don't give up are going to be the ones who's going to reach there, even if it's not in the short term. The long-term vision that you have for your life and what you want to accomplish, what matters to you the most, should still stay with you, even for temporary purposes. You have to get a job you don't enjoy that much. I think I will just stay with it and stick with it and keep it in your mind, in your heart still. But still very personalized, as Amber said. So that's what my addition would be. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'm really, hearing that we should really focus on the being of human being more, right? We were on this kind of constant go, go, go and being human doings more than human beings. And that it's okay if there's a breakdown, right? Because it's the breakdowns that lead to breakthroughs, as Amber beautifully put it. Cara, anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, it's something that's been resonating with my clients has been how used to it they are, that when something reveals something that's dissatisfying to them, like in their job or in their life or in their partnerships, that they do a lot of work to try to get rid of that dissatisfaction. Mm-hmm. When feeling dissatisfied is like the best data that you could possibly have. It's true if you have a team of employees, people that work for you, if they seem dissatisfied, that the leader reaction to like try to squelch that or try to explain that away is really like a miss. You miss like what's the data that the team or the system around you is trying to give you that you actually can use. And that's true inside you as well, that COVID has revealed a lot. And I think in a lot of client leaders that I have, it's revealed in them something that was dissatisfying, they weren't satisfied with. And the busyness, the hamster wheel, the conditioning, whatever it was, has taught us to not listen to that feeling of dissatisfaction in ourselves or others. And so when we get curious enough and get sturdy enough to go after that, why do I feel dissatisfied? What am I not satisfied with? What's out of alignment? What's not fitting? Whatever got revealed, go after it. Don't try to explain it away and keep it at bay. And the same is true for leaders and their teams. It's just, if you have a large organization, a small organization, there are ways to go find the dissatisfied people and see if there's any good information there that will help you develop either your team, the organization, or your own leadership impact. That's the most courageous one. If people are dissatisfied with the impact of your leadership, that's just the most juicy information. Like no one's going to give it to you unless you get after it. So go get it. I think COVID has revealed that pursuit for a lot of leaders is what feels dissatisfying to me, and where's the dissatisfaction around me, and what can I do to develop in order to address that. It's really exciting work. It's also hard and messy and difficult, and you got to face shadow when the stuff comes up, and but I'd say it reveals dissatisfaction.
I love that. And it's a great perspective, because treating the problem as your data, right? And then listening to your heart and saying, instead of shooing it away, what is this really telling me? And hence the purpose of this event, how do we repurpose ourselves so that, we can really get at the heart of that dissatisfaction. Thank you. Thank you all. Diana?
So I do have a couple more questions, but also want to honor that we've got nearly 50 toreros here on our call. So now for this section, what we'll do is open up to the floor of alumni and students to ask questions to our three amazing speakers. So feel free, if you do have a question, you could either type it in the chat or unmute yourself and ask that question directly.
And Diana, we had received a few questions from the audience prior to the event. Maybe we can go ahead and ask a couple of those.
Absolutely. We can start off with those as people are thinking about questions. And thanks to everyone who did send questions in advance. One question we had was, what is the best resource you have found for helping someone discover their purpose? So Amber, we can start off start off with you and then see if anyone else wants to jump in on that.
It's a great question. I think it's anything that allows you to quiet the external world and look within yourself. So that's different for other people. I think for each person to say, where am I? Where's the noise? Is the noise because I look on social media? Is the noise when I'm going and soliciting the noise and the input of other people? Is the noise my ideas that I held about who I'm supposed to be in this world because I was told that, or I just internalized a message? It's to me really about getting to your soul. And it's funny, I'm like, I did the souls program, and I think that really got me connected to my soul, which is, to me, the ego is like running a story, and it's telling me who I should be, and it's people pleasing, but it's not really the divinity of my own self. And so the more I've learned and deepened to connect to my own self, the greater the rewards. But that's been different for me. Hot yoga, lots of coach training that I've gone through, because in coach training, they really have you go through your own experience so you can be a neutral witness to someone else. It's leadership for change conferences at USD. It's those conversations with people that want to explore and have deep, deep inquiry. So those are kind of esoteric answer and more practical from my own experience.
Thank you, Amber. Cara and Brooke, let me know if either of you want to jump in.
Yeah, I'll offer two of mine. One of them I actually have used at USD, and I think you guys use it actually in vocation and mission stuff, so I'll have to double check. But it's called Infinity Why, and it's a really simple exercise. You just say, like, what's my purpose? Why? And then literally in infinite amounts of iterations, ask yourself, and why is that? And why is that? Usually the first answer is never the best or deepest answer. It's not the one that makes your heart pound or makes other people say, oh my gosh, yes, that's you. So, you know, I serve to help youth in San Diego. Okay, that's great. Why do you do that? Why is that your purpose? And why is that? And why is that? And why is that? That's Infinity Why, and it's helpful. The other one is something I call near and far, and it's adapted from a Ignatian spiritual tradition that's morning and evening ritual, and it's designed to help you get after the question of purpose. These are obviously like much bigger, deeper experiences, but I'm just giving them to you in 30 seconds. Near and far is starting the day. Where am I going to feel near to my purpose? And where am I going to feel far from it? Where am I going to feel on purpose? And where am I going to feel off purpose? And at the end of the day, doing the same thing. Where did I feel near and on purpose? And where did I feel far from purpose, sort of off purpose? And that's you know, it used to be consolation, desolation. Where did I feel near to spirit or source? Where did I feel far from spirit or source? But I find that my clients, and I use this practice every day, near and far. Where was I really close to purpose? Like, it was so real. I could feel it. I was really on purpose. And where was I far from it? I have massive asset manager CEOs who do this every day. And I have my children do sort of a version of this every day. So I saw a question in the chat go by. Is this stuff hold for relationships? Does this stuff hold for non-professional context? Yes, yes, and yes, it does. My finding is that it all does, and that purpose runs through everything, and it's our ability to be courageous enough to allow it to apply to all these things and not just exist as this sort of outside cause that drives our whole professional world. No, it's in us. It's like we are in practice of these things with everyone. So Infinity Why and near and far, and people can grab me if you need more about that, but it's really, those are fun. Those are mine.
That's great. Thank you, Cara. And finally, Brooke, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, I think those are similar practice that I use, especially Cara's, like why, the 7-level why is what I call it. You go deeper and deeper. But also one question that I use a lot for myself, but for others, is like, what is the one thing that your heart really wants to pull out and help around you? It could be big things like poverty, or it could be someone as a grandfather taking care of the grandchild, right? It doesn't doesn't always have to make the headlines. I think that's what I see in a lot of my clients. They want that to be such a big, wonderful statement that they need to come up with, which sometimes hinders them following their why, because it's not as big as many others could sound like, and it doesn't have to be that way. It really what matters to your soul, like what Amber was saying, not to your only thinking analytical mind, but something draws you to do something about it. Anything that you see in the world that draws you more, and then you can't always tie it into your work immediately, but then there's always ways to do that too. And it could be some volunteer work that you do, which is unpaid, but it satisfies you a lot. But if you can bring it back to work and have a tie between the work that you do and your purpose, then those are the most fulfilled people based on research. So that's what I wanted to add. Thank you.
That is great advice, book. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Great advice. So I'm hearing the infinity exercise, asking why 5 or more times, near and far exercise, sort of, the quieting the external noise. And as Brooke said, relating your work to some service projects, passion projects that you're really, really interested in. So one of our participants asks, how do you look at the difference between a life coach and a career coach, and how would we know which to work with? And I just want to sort of interject really quick here and let all of our alumni in the room know that you're all entitled to free and lifetime career counseling services. And I am USD's internal coach providing that service to you. So just sort of putting it out there in case you're not aware. And then if I may take a stab at this question, so a coach is really someone who gets you from point A to point B, right? And if the destination is really more focused on your career purposes and career goals, then I would suggest reaching out to a career coach. With that being said, though, because a lot of the blocks and the barriers that we face are personal related and life related, in a lot of career coaching conversations, you'll hit on a lot of life issues and vice versa. If you go to a life coach, there'll be a lot of conversations focused on your professional and work life. But I'll let our speakers chime in as well.
Yeah, I agree with what you said so much, Dee. Like, I'm always, if I have my career coach hat, I am definitely starting with their transition. They want to find more meaning at work. They are just got laid off, but they don't want to be in the hamster wheel again. So it starts with that, but as many coaches on the call, we know that it all boils down to the same thing. So you do go to their lives no matter what, but I still prefer to go with a career coach if that's your concentration or focus right now, because there's relationship coaches, there's health coaches. I mean, there's always some kind of a specialty topic that everybody chooses to be in, and there are life coaches who does all of the above, but it's good to start with that. But at the same time, it's good to know you might hit those points where you have these blockages or things that you have to break through, and it will help in all the other parts of your life too. So that's what I want to add to what you already beautifully said, Dee.
Cara and Amber, anything that you'd like to share?
Go for it, Amber. I know you have a point of view on this.
I do have a strong point of view. I'm feeling it come up, right? So when I enrolled in coach training, I really hated the term life coach, and I will own my bias in this. So the coaching profession is largely misunderstood and very young. I come from originally the CPA background, highly regulated. There's certified training, there's supervision, there's hours requirements. And so when someone says they're a CPA, like, you kind of understand what that means and you understand the value of it. When we say coach, I mean, there are lots of people calling themselves coaches with zero formal training, don't have a code of ethics like confidentiality and record keeping and things of that nature. So everyone has a life and everyone has a career. And I don't know that it's either or. I would have people more of, if you're considering working with a coach, what's important to you? I would at a minimum say, what is your actual training? Why do you do this? What are your ideal clients? What does that look like for you? And then finding someone that you just have a resonance with, because the best coaching is going to get to the deepest levels of who you are. It's the shadows, it's the vulnerability, it's the stuff that's scary. And do you feel like you can tell your whole life story to this human being, either that's on the other side of the Zoom or the phone? That's the stuff that's really important, because coaching isn't just, yes, we're all educated and we have frameworks and we can teach you about leadership, but it's also a soul searching process. And so you have to, not just receive advice, it's really looking within yourself and, having somebody hold you through that vulnerable experience and having you take some action to move your life forward. So I will climb down from my soapbox, but I just really, I love that lots of people want to do coaching. And at the same time, I have a hard time being with it because it's, to me, a deeply meaningful work that we do, and other people are just calling themselves a coach without really honoring a training or a philosophy and really doing it with integrity in the world.
Thanks so much for sharing that, because I remember, very recently challenging a strengths coach for that exact same reason, because there's a huge difference between a coach, an advisor, a mentor, and a consultant. And and sometimes those lines do get blurred. So greatly appreciate you clarifying that, Amber. Okay, shall we go into the chat rooms or?
Oh,
sounds good.
I have an article on my website too that does some of this just to help out. So this is a great question. I don't want that one to get lost. I didn't weigh in on it, but do some reading about the differences, and I'll start you off with mine. But yeah, for sure, that's worth talking about. Whoever the person was that asked that question, stay with that question. It's a really good.
Sean, that is a great question. And what we'll do for the final kind of 8 to 10 minutes of this session is go into breakout groups I'll put you in groups with one of our speakers each. So then you could have a chance to ask more kind of tailored questions and be in smaller groups of about 14 to 15 people. So we'll bring everyone back at about 12:55. So you'll have 8 to 10 minutes to be with our speakers.
Thanks, Diana.
Welcome back, everyone. Hi, Amber. Hi, Cara. My gosh, didn't that time just fly by?
The breakout rooms always do.
And as we come back, I encourage you to put in the chat kind of one key takeaway that you learned from that breakout group and from some of the things that Amber was sharing. We've got the other two breakout groups that are squeezing the last 10 seconds out of their advice from the speakers. Perfect. I love this seeing in the chat different resources that people are sharing and recommendations. That's really great to see. But like I said, just before the rest of you joined, encourage you to put in the chat if key takeaways and learning lessons that you learned from the interview, the breakout groups. I think that would be really interesting to see. But my key takeaway just being appreciative of Brooke, Cara, and Amber, the time that you've spent today. Just time and talent that you've shared with fellow Toreros, and appreciate you joining us on this call. So
Thank you so much. And I will be chatting in our post-event survey. And if you wouldn't mind, please filling that out after the event or right now, that would be greatly appreciated. It will inform our future events. So thank you so much. And thank you for being here and participating. And to our speakers, are there any final thoughts, sort of closing remarks that you would like to share?
First of all, thanks for having us, of course. I wish we had 10 more hours to talk about this, but you can always, I think, come back and connect with us on LinkedIn is what I'm going to say, all three of us, all of us. And I would love to answer any other questions you might have afterwards too. But just believe in yourself and what your gut says. That's what I'm going to end with. Thank you.
Thanks, Brooke. Cara and Amber?
In order of listing, no, thank you for allowing us to open up these questions. This just doesn't happen enough. Amber and I have done it in other forums, but I'm excited. I hope more conversations like this open up. And I want to encourage anybody who's a leader, either in their family or their system or wherever they're a leader, you can actually start these conversations and not depend on awesome institutions to start them for you, but you can start these forums. You don't need to be an expert to say, what's the most meaningful? What are we dissatisfied with? Those are easy questions. People can answer those questions. It's right there.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And Amber?
Yeah, thanks for the forum. And I want to echo, if anyone wants to connect on LinkedIn, would be happy to keep the conversation going. And just, I think it's really dream big. If your gut tells you something, like I got this weird message one time that was like, be a CPA who works with hearts and not numbers. I'm like, CPA who works with hearts and not numbers, what does that mean? But that's what I do, right? I work with people's hearts, and it made no sense. Kind of back to Cara, just like, how am I going to do that? I don't know, but you'll figure it out. Trust that if you get this strong information from your gut, the how will come. It will come. So just stay with you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And one of our listeners, she asked if we would be sharing the resources that were shared via chat after the event, and we will do that. And please, if you can, fill out the survey form. That would be lovely. And with that being said, thank you for being here, and have a great rest of your day and your week.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.